Hello and welcome to Dojo Live this Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. My name is Kim Lantis and it's my pleasure to be hosting today alongside Sridhar Padmanabhan. Hello, Sridhar.
Hey, Kim.
And no, this is exciting because this is the first time Sridhar has helped us co-host here on Dojo Live, but as a subject matter expert here in travel and hospitality, it's great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. And then, of course, the guest of honor. Where are you, Clint? There he is. We've got Clint Meyers, who is the Director of Business Development at Redpoint Travel Protection. Clint, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm pleased to be here.
I'm pleased to have you, and it's a really fun conversation, one that we don't really have much here in Dojo Live, and that's about this very specific persona of the modern day explorer. And so we're going to be diving in really to this idea of adventure insurance, not the idea of, the reality of, right? Adventure insurance, how you're using technology to insure the modern day explorer, of course, just travel insurance as a whole, how it's changed, where it's going. So it's going to be a really great conversation.
Wonderful.
Before we dive into the specifics of adventure insurance, however, we would like to get to know you, Clint, a bit more. What's your story, kind of your experience, and what's led up to your time with Redpoint Travel?
Yeah, you bet. So I appreciate the intro. I've been in the industry since, let's say, 2017. Prior to entering the industry, I didn't know what travel insurance was, right? I had no clue. Because when you hear the word insurance, you don't think it's very exciting. So
just that annoying thing that you skip over when you're booking.
Yes. And it's a strange story because at the company I got my start, a friend of mine that I knew was leaving that company to go to a competitor. But at the same time, he said, "Have you considered working in travel insurance?" And I said, "What is it? What does that mean?" And as he left to go to that company, I came in working at that position, and ironically ended up competing with that friend in the industry. So it's very strange. It's a place that I really love what I do, and I love the industry I'm within. And it's afforded me to work with some really fantastic companies, fantastic brands, fantastic people. Traveling, doing in-person, face-to-face sales it's intimidating for some. I felt it was natural, really. It became natural to me just in terms of communications. Being from the Midwest, we're people that talk, we're people that like to see how you're doing. So it comes really relatively easily. And then able to grow from there, growing up through the company into a different position along the way. And working again with airlines, cruise lines, travel agencies, tour operators, right? It's been unique and it's been fun. I've seen some cool places. I've met some fantastic people, which brought me to Redpoint. Because again, where I work today, I was able to forge a relationship with one of the co-founders at Redpoint, just being in the industry. So it brought me here, and that's where I'm at today.
All right. Congratulations. I think at the end of the show, we like to kind of touch on lessons learned. And I'd be interested to know your story more of just like ramping up and what it was like to your learning curve and do's and don'ts there. But let's talk a bit more about Redpoint Travel Protection. Okay, travel insurance, but what specifically is the problem that you and your company help solve?
Good question. So, Redpoint really, we more so reverse engineered the launch of travel insurance in the sense that we focused on what is important. And that starting out would be assistance. So what happens if something goes wrong? What are the resources available? What is done to assist? Especially if it's an emergency, what are we doing to assist with those that are affected? From there, we wanted to refine that process to really be professionals at it and have all those solutions in place. And then from there, getting into, hey, let's understand an underwriter who can assist us with this, and then ensuring that underwriter works with us exclusively and is not working with other competitors of ours, and allows us to really handle with our own claims, handle the sales process ourselves. So everything that we do from a Redpoint standpoint is all done in-house, which is fairly unique in our industry, in that we can control the process from start to finish rather than relying on third parties. So everything we do, again, is handled by Redpoint employees. So if it's a claim or if it's assistance related, that's all handled by the same individuals, versus if you're working with a third party, you're not having access to the information that they have, or vice versa. So that's really streamlined our abilities to become a player in the travel insurance industry today.
Very, very smart. And I know, Sridhar, you also have experience in the travel insurance industry. I don't know if you have questions in terms of just what that distinction is and that how that's setting them apart. I think that's very smart. And I think we can lean into what that means for the adventurer or the modern day explorer.
Sure.
Yeah, so thanks, Kim. So I've always thought about, in my past conversations, Clint, you know, uh, I've thought about how a travel platform, thinks about travel insurance. And one of the things they've mentioned is that, and this is not you, the travel insurance provider, I'm talking about some of the travel platforms. They've mentioned that, you know, we know the right time, we're trying to find the right way to position it at the right time in the buying cycle to the buyers. And for at least for the travel platforms, they have indicated that, hey, there's this business is not a big volume business, but it operates at a significant margin and things like that, right? Which is one way to look at it. uh, and then as a consumer of travel, when I'm going through the cycle, and I always look at, as Kim mentioned, hey, what is travel insurance and where does it fit into the buying cycle? I oftentimes find that I'm not educated enough about it, or I'm not thinking about it, or it looks like, oh, I didn't plan for this cost. So those are some things that go through my mind. uh, you know I'd be very interested in how the travel insurance industry, how you look at, either platform behavior or buyer behavior, and what how you look at it and what you wish the customer knew. So I long question, but that's kind of what I had in mind.
Sure, absolutely. So, traditionally, with a partnership, whether it's an online travel agency or any method that you can really book travel online, we first and foremost, whoever's selling you that trip, flight, package deal, whatever that may be, uh, their main focus again is going to be to secure your money for that trip. And with that being said, there's always a risk along the way that it's in the back of a traveler's mind to say, what if I can't go on that trip? What happens? Right. And
Right.
what if something occurs and I'm unable to go? So a lot of our partners that we partner with understand that. So from that point, they want to position an opportunity to protect your investment. So once you get to the point where you're saying, yes, here's my money for the trip that I owe you, um, we get to a point in that booking process to where travel insurance comes up.
Mhm.
And from there, you're going to hit on exactly what a traveler's thinking, which is, hey, what if I'm going to have to give you $2,000 for this trip or deposit, whatever it may be. What if I can't go? The next page, you're going to see travel insurance to protect your trip, to protect cancellation,
Right.
to protect many different facets of it. If you're traveling internationally, what do I need if I don't have medical coverage outside the United States? So from there, we'll hit on what we are assuming the traveler is going to be interested in, which is cancellation, medical coverage while traveling abroad, going to a remote region. What happens if I'm in the middle of nowhere and I need help? And then you're offering that purchase of travel insurance at that point in time. Again, because I think as consumers, is that it's easier to spend money on something, on an add-on feature like travel insurance, if you're already spending money on whatever your main purchase is. So if we can get them to say, here's your insurance cost to go with your trip, it's a heck of a lot easier to convert sales at that point in time because they're already giving you money, right? From there, we'll go without changing the experience that they're having on the platform that they're booking through. So it's almost a branding experience that they're seeing. Hey, I'm buying travel insurance through whatever it may be, and it doesn't look like it's from us in the background or whoever that may be. So it doesn't create confusion. And they get to the point where that money's transacted, they're insured from that point. The day that they spend money on travel insurance, they're insured. So if something were to occur in the following week or two and they can't go on their trip, airline may say, too bad, so sad, I'm keeping your money. If it's a covered reason, they're able to recoup that money on the back end through a claim. So hopefully I answered that question for you.
Yes.
Okay.
It did, and it made a lot of sense in the positioning. Now let's dive into the topic of conversation in the adventure insurance. Now you mentioned, I think just a few minutes ago, what happens if something were to happen to me in a very remote location? What does this look like for you guys at Redpoint Travel? Maybe talk us through the coverage that exists, the technology that you utilize to help someone in need. And then, of course, I don't know if you have any cool, not that I want somebody who needs help to be a cool story that didn't come out right, but, examples of real life stories in which this has kind of unfolded.
Sure. I mean, I use the word adventurer loosely, in the sense that, years ago, adventure for us as an insurance company was those that are trekking Everest, those that are trekking Kilimanjaro, right, or Patagonia, whatever that may be, or going to remote regions of Africa on safaris. To now, the modern day adventurer could be those going to a beach with 5 kids. To them, that's an adventure, right? So if we want to offer solutions if and when something goes wrong. So, internally, we're going to utilize technology in emergency situations to ensure the traveler has up-to-date information, has an open line of communication with our assistance team. We also utilize technology to have line of sight as to where we're at in that process and the assistance process to accurately keep our vast assistance provider network, as well as the traveler, informed, providing them with peace of mind that they can expect from working with a company like Redpoint. That could be tracking mechanisms as to where we're at with whether it's a land or sea evacuation, to set expectations with the traveler to say, here's where we're at on our way to get you, or foreseeing any issues that could happen along the way. And also communicate accurately between those two. So opening lines of communication between those on the ground who are going to assist and potentially those that need the assistance. So they're both connected on the back end through communication lines.
Very cool. What types of communication does this consist of? I mean, I think it just depends on the scenarios. It can be anything from an SMS to an email to a telephone call to, I don't know, walkie-talkies. Like what does this look like?
That's a good question. WhatsApp is certainly an aspect in our space that's frequently utilized, so we can not only communicate directly with the traveler regardless of where they are, but also connect that traveler with those that are handling the assistance of the traveler. Also, it works for us to communicate with our assistance network, so we can identify who we need to tap into to step in at what point in time and to help. That's certainly that. We also will work with travelers if they're using a Garmin and they're going off to remote regions, so we can keep an eye on where they're at throughout their travel, throughout their journey. Naturally, on our side, we also are utilizing technology for if a traveler were to reach out to us and call in. So if they call in and they're in the middle of an emergency situation, immediately once we receive their call, immediately their information is going to be pulled up and notes as to what's been going on. So we're not delaying the assistance whatsoever, and we're getting information that we would need in real time to communicate accurately with the traveler.
Very cool. So in terms of I know you've got different partnerships and elements, and how does this work in terms of integrations or security, data exchange? I don't know. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, in terms of technology that a partnership would come with? Yeah, sure. Speaking generally in our industry, whether it's Redpoint or our competitors, most of us are going to offer industry technology to offer solutions to make an agent's life easier by increasing their yield, reducing time spent doing so, allowing them to spend time that's needed with their clients, booking their trips rather than time working with the insurance. Offering them technology solutions that allow them to quote quickly using just bare basic information, right? Because travel insurance more often than not is based off of how much are they spending, how old are they, right? Those are really drivers for most insurance policies out there. So if we can just collect those two pieces of information, we can provide a quote quickly, and then booking agent, whoever that may be, can relay that to the traveler. Traveler comes back to say yes or no. If they say yes, then we're pushing them into further technology that allows them to generate the quote with all the information that's needed. State of residency is big in the insurance world. Understand the traveler, where they're going, how long are they going, how much are they spending, and then provide that quote from there to either be sent to the traveler to allow them to purchase, or purchased right then and there through that system. That system will also allow them to modify and edit a policy, meaning if you reflect back on 2020, when everything shut down, there was stockpiles of travel insurance policies sitting out there for trips that simply weren't going to happen.
Right.
So once travel came back around, you're having stockpiles of travel insurance policies that need to be used. So those travelers are rebooking and finding new trips to go on, those new dates, whatever that trip may cost look like. And versus having them all call into a call center and experiencing 60, 70-minute waits, which, believe me, was very normal during that time. We were setting up systems, in our industry to allow whether it's a traveler or the booking agent to go in and simply edit and modify a policy. That can be done through API or through a booking platform that we have in place with our partner.
Wow, that's one piece of the pandemic that actually had never even occurred to me in terms of banking in on all of these travel insurance policies. And you were involved in the travel insurance. Yeah, you've been in the industry long enough that way you were deeply involved. What can you talk to that story at all in terms of just where the industry has been, where it is, where it's headed, and what your experience with such a what's the word, extreme pivot, what that was like?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes my skin crawl just thinking about it because it was such a wild time. But, we saw a lot of companies close, disappear. We saw a lot of them struggle to hang on and persevere through trying times where there was simply zero travel, and then come out on the other side of it and grow exponentially. Referring to a partnership that I spoke with a few days ago, their numbers of growth have grown 70% since pre-COVID times. Travel is just simply viewed differently.
So that's not a comparison of COVID until now. That's where we were at pre-COVID. We're 70% bigger.
That's one partner as an example. Wow. But many of them again have grown, and not only did they grow in the sense of, hey, they're handling more bookings. These are simply different trips. Because the traveler now is back looking at their trips thinking, I want to do something different. Going to Paris is fantastic, but maybe they want to go to the remote regions of Antarctica. Maybe they want to go, to Norway, to northern Norway. They want to go. Galapagos is naturally a big part of travel right now. Many different areas that it's simply not just beaches and mountains, as it is untapped regions that are really opening up for travelers.
Because there's a term I came across recently. You talked about reverse engineering how travel insurance works, right? Your focus mostly was on when you're actually needed versus the selling side, right? And there's this idea of this reverse planning now that comes to the experience of traveling, right? It's not just where I want to go, but what am I going to do? And then I can find where to go.
Exactly.
And this is generational in some ways, right? Gen Z is a big influence in this.
You're correct. Unfortunately, I have a sister-in-law. She's younger. She travels on her own. She books it all through her on her own. I encourage her to use a travel agent. I always would encourage anybody to use a travel agent. And she's doing things by herself in various parts of Europe. Just getting out there and experiencing things, which I think she's a good reflection of the modern day traveler in that sense, that they're just doing things that maybe they wouldn't have done, other generations wouldn't have even considered.
That's wild. So what's the future that you're seeing in your industry?
Sure. I mean, so there's a lot more focus now on the benefits and the experience that the traveler has. And when I say benefits, meaning not just simple, okay, something goes wrong, keep your receipts, we'll pay you back. We're seeing a little bit more of that instant gratification that we have by way of just using our phones. We expect things in real time. So you're seeing benefits now geared towards those types of situations. So if a traveler is traveling and they're stuck on a tarmac, or they have a flight delay, or they're going to go skiing and the ski resort's closed because of lack of snow. Now you're getting an immediate payment as a result. And so instead of filing a claim, you're just getting that immediate satisfaction of saying, here's $250 for what went wrong. Being stuck on there, on the runway for 2 hours. We apologize. Here's $250. You're seeing it shift down to that, as well as a lot more focus on the experience that a traveler has, being what resources they need to have that customer experience that we want them to have. Whether that's calling in and speaking to a customer service agent who is using AI to generate quick responses that they can provide back to the traveler. We always want them to speak with a live person if they're in a customer experience or a situation, just because we want to make sure that we're giving them the right answer, because travel insurance is not known to many. So maybe they don't know what to ask or how to ask it. So if it was solely AI in terms of responsiveness, we don't know that the traveler is asking the right question. So therefore, how's AI going to know how to answer it? Whereas a real person can guide them and make them feel at ease, especially if they're out in an assistance related situation or in an emergency. I don't want technology involved. I will want it involved in helping them, but I want people to people interaction to ensure that they know that we're going to get them taken care of.
That makes a lot of sense. And just, the AI assistance internally, like for your agents and the people, to make things easier, faster, more effective. That's super smart.
Correct.
Sridhar, did you have anything that you'd like to coming out of this conversation? Many questions.
I have lots of questions. I'm just trying to think of what would be. So, Clint, two questions. One on the customer side and one on the business side. The customer side would be, as I'm listening to you, I think you alluded to this. Regular travelers, not just adventure or experienced travelers. I don't know if they think enough of travel insurance. I fall into the group of customers that probably don't think enough of it. What would, being in the business, what would you like travelers to consider, as they are planning their experience, right? Because they probably don't think of insurance enough, or what kind, where, how much, things like that, right? To your point, I do know people who go to Everest Base Camp, and I know somebody that had to be evacuated and things like that. That part I know. So one question is that what would you like? And they obviously thought about it before they went, right? The group of people my age that went up to the base camp and all that. On the other side, I think your business is probably unique in that it's not B2C, but it's B2B2C kind of a thing. Is that right?
Correct.
So in that sense, as much as you understand what the traveler wants, in somebody in your company, how do you go to where the business is? So those two things were those were two things that I had in mind. You can tackle them in whichever sequence.
Sure. I mean, in terms of educating the traveler and things that they should be considering while they're booking a trip in general, is there anything going on in their lives that could prevent them from going on this trip? The biggest risk in travel insurance is always cancellation. It's always the number one driver of claims, just simply because if you're booking a trip and I'm not leaving for a year to 2 years, there's many things that could come up in life between now and when I go that could prevent you from going. You could have loved ones at home that fall ill. You yourself could fall ill. You could lose a job. There's multitude of things. So right. What we rely on really is education, and that's traditionally educating, whether that's a tour operator or a travel agency, to understand how are you selling travel insurance? Who are you selling it to? What's your approach? And that for us is usually education. So we want them to understand what the benefits of travel insurance is. So it's not simply just taking money from somebody to go on their trip. It's educating them on what could happen while they're going, or is there anything at home that could prevent you? And oftentimes you'll get a traveler simply asking, I've got a sick family member in the next year. I can't go. What happens? Or what should I do? And that's where it comes into play. So who you're speaking with is going to educate you to say that I'm going to recommend you buy travel insurance. Or if you're going to a very remote region, they're going to push you to that anyway. But it's not uncommon to see, especially in the tour operator space, whether you're going South America, or you're going to Asia, you're going to Africa, whatever it may be, that companies now are requiring travel insurance, that you buy it, period. They can't say, we require you to buy it and you have to buy it from boom, Redpoint, right? Although that would be fantastic. You can't do that. You have to simply say, we require you to buy it. Here's who we recommend, but regardless of who, you have to buy travel insurance. Because if something were to happen along the way, someone falls, break their legs, they could turn around and come after the tour company because they were just say, I didn't know that this wouldn't be covered, or that I didn't have health care outside the US, or I didn't know what I could have done. So you'll see a lot more emphasis on it, especially post-COVID world, because that's where really travel insurance grew tremendously from that point in time to the point where we're expecting billions and billions in growth in the next few years.
It's interesting that sort of, I don't know, domino effect, if that's the right word, where it's like the travel insurance is primarily meant to protect the traveler, but then it's also to the B2B2C, right? Protecting the middle B.
Yes, correct.
I love it. I was thinking in terms of like, one thing is if it's mandatory to purchase the insurance, but then also going back to the previous conversation around the generationality or who the buyers of travel insurance are. Are you seeing a difference in generations? Like, is it, something that older people are more sort of aware of, or is it younger generations actually being more aware, or no difference at all?
That's a good question. Traditionally in our world, it was always 60 plus years old was the traditional purchaser of travel insurance, largely because they may be retired, they have money to spend, they're going on multiple trips throughout the year, which is certainly a life I'd love to live, but
and life's knocked them around enough for them to know that.
Yeah. But we've seen a shift to where now potentially the average age of an insured could be in their 40s. That's certainly not uncommon to see a shift to go younger, largely because, again, younger folks are traveling and they're going outside of the U.S. So anytime you go outside the U.S., there's a cost associated to that. We're not talking about $1,000 trip to Florida. We're seeing trips now, people going around the world that are costing $100,000, right? But we've seen certainly trips to Europe that are in the average around $15,000 to $20,000. So most often than not, you're going to have strict cancellation policies in place through whoever you're booked through. They've been stricter from the last few years because of demand, simply, to be honest with you. So again, what if you can't go? What's going to happen? Well, this company has to make money as well. They can't just give free funds to everybody. So that's where the shift to travel insurance really moved over and became a heck of a lot more important. And we're seeing younger and younger travelers buy it for sure.
Interesting. You were also talking, I think we're coming to the final few minutes, but I have one quick question before we bring it back to your personal learnings as you came up to speed in this new industry for yourself. But that, and now I forgot my original question. Experience and just personalization or packages. Is this something that we can expect that is happening or expect to happen in terms of finding that balance of what I'm willing to spend on travel insurance, what I'm not willing to spend, what I think is really going to be necessary for me, what I think is going to be so absolutely unlikely that I'm not going to cover myself for said scenario. What does this look like in terms of the personalization of travel insurance?
Sure. So it's really offering various policies that are relevant. We don't want to scare somebody away simply because of price and overwhelm them with benefits that don't mean anything to them. So there's traditionally options in our world of travel insurance that speak to a multitude of situations of the travelers. And whether that could be plans that cover somebody going to a concert, right? There's event ticket coverage. There's plans that cover basic trips if you're going rafting down the Grand Canyon, right? And you want to ensure just what could happen, because what could happen to you on a US trip is vastly different than what could happen to you on a trip to Europe, right? So it's providing plans to our travelers with benefits that speak to them. A lot of people love freedom. So they could say, what if I just simply don't want to go? And that's why you see cancel for any reason come up time and time again, especially the last 3-4 years, as a matter of importance, to simply give that traveler to say, hey, my pet snake died. I'm bummed out. I can't go. Right. Well, that's normally not covered. Did you buy cancel for any reason? In that case, you would be. It also gives you the ability to say, I'm traveling with a boyfriend or a girlfriend. What if we break up? Well, travel insurance doesn't, literally insure a broken heart. It does, but not because you're sad. So there's options out there that would speak benefit-wise to a lot of different travelers. It's just about keeping them relevant so that we're always ahead of what's coming next in terms of our industry.
Mm-hmm. And I think it just comes back to peace of mind and ensuring the experience, right? Because that's what travel is all about, trying to guarantee that it's the best experience that we could possibly have. That's great. So in your experience then, the key word, what was this like, or what advice might you have for folks who are joining travel and hospitality or travel insurance sector? What was it like for you in terms of that learning curve, and maybe what others might consider doing or consider not doing?
Sure. So working in travel insurance and working in hospitality in general, offering travel insurance to your guests is not only essential in terms of offering the service ensuring the service that you're giving them and the package that they're purchasing through you. It's also driving revenue to your company, because you're not just offering travel insurance, you don't get anything from it. It's a revenue stream for many companies, to the numbers that would probably shock a lot of people. So it's really, if you're in travel insurance or you're working in an industry that offers it, it's understanding that value that travel insurance has, understanding your guests and why it's relevant to them, and also, looking at it from a standpoint that it's a necessity. It's not really an option. So it's really, again, a part of a service. If you're going to take $10,000 for somebody to go on a trip, you owe it to them to help them understand what could happen if they can't go and how to protect against it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Stick around for just a minute, Clint, as we go off air, but I do want to thank you again for joining us here on the show, Sridhar, as well. We, of course, wish Redpoint Travel Protection nothing but the best as you continue to reverse engineer your industry. Very, very cool. So you audience who are listening to us, stick around, because next week we do have a great show coming up on the 16th, also at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking about experiences and why experiences, the best part of travel, fail to convert. And so we're going to look at customer data being the crux to resolving conversion problem for experiences, what travel brands can do about it. That's with Alejandro Gomez Lozada, who is the VP of Revenue at Hollybob. So catch us next week. And until then, stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.